Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NvTv. Joining me in the studio this evening is John Devlin and Phil Higginson.
Hey.
Hello to you both, guys. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Wonka, which was released in cinemas last week. I'll be speaking with Rachel McCarthy about her film Bangor's Ghosts. Our DVD of the week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and our countdown to Christmas continues as we share our thoughts on the night before. So that's what we've lined up tonight. Guys, I thought before we get into all things cinematic, we've had a rather big anniversary on the small screen. We've just had the final of 3 special episodes for Doctor Who that has aired. David Tennant came back. We thought he was just going to be around for this. We now don't know what's going to happen. That's as unspoilerific as I'm going to be. But more importantly, we now have Ncuti Gatwa taking over the keys to the TARDIS. He's got a brand new sonic screwdriver. And the trailer has been released for the Christmas special. Very excited to see what this incarnation of the Doctor, our favourite time-travelling Time Lord, is going to be all about. And I'm going to come to you first, John. Your thoughts, I guess, on the 3 specials we've just had, and then your excitement about, we've now had our first real proper glimpse of what we're going to see with Ncuti Gatwa taking over. Russell T Davies is back. This Christmas special, from what I've seen from the trailer, looks like a lot of fun. What about you? What do you think?
I'm hopeful, and I haven't been hopeful for Doctor Who for a wee while. I know there was some writing issues recently with it, and with the last season previous to the specials, a lot of it kind of fell on its sword, you know, that sort of way. But with the return of Tennant was the Doctor that I grew up with. I really, really love it. I really loved the 3 episodes that came out. The second episode particularly was really, really good. I felt that they had a really strong back to Russell T Davies's classic way that he loved to produce his episodes and put it together. I'm really looking forward to it. Without spoiling too much, I liked that they gave Tennant's Doctor a happy ending. You know, it wasn't the traditional sort of regeneration where you had to say, goodbye to something. Sorry, but
look, I am someone, and I am going to be completely unashamed about this. When David Tennant first left the scene, handed over the keys to Matt Smith to the TARDIS, on that episode, I blubbed, properly blubbed, and I didn't expect to blub. It was one of those things where it caught me by surprise and how much kind of emotional engagement I had with that particular incarnation of the Doctor. Someone who came to Doctor Who probably through the Sylvester McCoy era. That's me showing my age, and then kind of looking back at other Doctors that we've had. But I didn't realise how emotionally engaged I was with David Tennant. And that's to say, I absolutely loved Matt Smith in his time, and Peter Capaldi. I quite like Jodie Whittaker. But coming back to what you said, as you say, we got a happy ending. It was a sense that I didn't have to go through that trauma. Yeah. And I'm 41. So I can only imagine kind of younger viewers that, okay, maybe they're not as going to be engaged with Tennant as I am, but we got that happy ending. But I'm really excited because I think with Ncuti Gatwa, we've got someone that can bring something new and different and an energy to the role. We've seen our first glimpse of the new assistant as well. I think it's exciting times. And I was reading today with Russell T Davies that he wants to bring the fun back to Doctor Who with all the kind of doom and gloom. And there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world right now. So I think that's good. Now, Phil, you were as excited to talk about Doctor Who, but just before you get a chance to share your thoughts, I think we'll have a quick look at the trailer for the Christmas special.
My God.
Here comes Santa. Who's your friend?
This is...
So that's a look at the trailer for the Doctor Who Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road. Phil, you knew the title for this Christmas special. I'm just calling it the Christmas special. So possibly, and I'm not going to throw shade at John, I don't know, maybe of the 3 of us, you're the most excited here. You're maybe the biggest Whovian.
I love Doctor Who. I grew up with Doctor Who. I'm so happy Russell T Davies has it back. It's always been a soft sci-fi. It's not, it's not hard sci-fi, but with him it's especially soft. It's Emotional beats, big sweeping characters, goblins in the new trailer. He said he's hoping to take it in a more fantasy direction. It looks like that's going to be the case. I'm excited for Gappa's performance as the Doctor. From what little we've seen of him so far, very energetic, very upbeat. It's something fresh for the series. It'll be a nice change after a couple of miserable years with Doctor Who. I'll say that.
I wouldn't say it's miserable. I mean, it is a bit of a disappointing time when you think with Jodie Whittaker's tenure, because I was someone particularly having seen her in other work. I mean, I remember seeing her in Good Vibrations, Film My Old Champion to the Hilt. I thought she was a perfect choice to do something different and kind of come back close to kind of that Tennant era, but I just don't think the writing was up to scratch.
No, no harm to Jodie Whittaker. What I'd really love is her to get a story with Gatwa alongside him under Russell T Davies. I think he could do the character justice writing for Jodie's Doctor.
We might have to wait to the 60th anniversary for that. But look, the Christmas special, it is going to be out, as I say, over the festive period. I think it's on Christmas Day it's going to be released. We'll have to wait until then to see if the trailer can match the excitement that we've all got here in the room. But I think with that, I think we are a movie review show. So I think we'll move on and talk about a film that we've all seen.
Chocolate chip is simple.
Where is this?
It's just weird. What's happening? Ooh, what's a chocolate that makes it fly?
Let's find out, shall we? Who's for a Hummerchuck?
Nothing to see here. Just a small group of people defying the laws of gravity.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Gallery Gourmet, my name is Willy Wonka.
Okay, so that's a look at the trailer for Wonka, out in cinemas last week. Timothée Chalamet taking over the kind of mantle. We've had previous incarnations with Johnny Depp. We've had, of course, the great Gene Wilder. This is a film I think very much is holding a candle to the Gene Wilder version of Willy Wonka. We have the team who brought us Paddington to the big screen. We also, in terms of the writers, some of the members of the League of Gentlemen are there as well. I find it charming. I think it's all there. It's kind of this great throwback to the golden era of Hollywood and cinema. But I wasn't charmed by it. But that's just me. John, what was your thoughts on Wonka?
I was mixed about it more so than anything else. I went into it with really no expectations, or not that I thought it was going to be bad or good. The one thing I'll say about it is I think Timothée Chalamet did a brilliant job as a young Wonka, but I felt that it was almost too separate away from the original. I felt that the story that they were telling within Timothée Chalamet's Wonka, it didn't fully connect to Gene Wilder's sort of nihilistic character. Although I have a feeling, especially with the previous works of the director who did Paddington and then Paddington 2, there probably will be a sequel that'll then lead into more of the themes that we've seen from the original. I don't know. I really liked. There was a great. It was great to see the motif of some of the music that came through, and it really paid off at the end. They really teased it throughout the movie. I liked the character development for all the characters. I thought it was very comical, and overall, I thought it was just if you took it as a solo film by itself, that was about somebody who loved making chocolate, I think it would work perfectly. I just think it was too far away from the original. And the CG as well. The CGI really, they overdid it. Do you know, that sort of way? Just comparably, I'm a lover of practical effects.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, as much as I love seeing Hugh Grant as a little Oompa Loompa, I don't know. I don't think it has the charm of seeing the likes of Rusty Joff from the original. I think it has its heart in its right place, and I think when you know that from the team from Paddington, you'll get that, you'll expect that. It's that emotional baggage you bring in, that sense that I have rose-tinted glasses for the Gene Wilder version. And I think what Timothée does in his kind of portrayal, he's trying to balance the kind of the quirkiness of Depp's version with Tim Burton, that I'm not a fan of. But he's also then, as you kind of said, that kind of nihilist kind of facade almost that we had with Gene Wilder. I don't know. I can see the screening that I was in, it wasn't full, but there was younger viewers there. They were not restless. They clearly enjoyed what they were seeing, so maybe it's just me. 41-year-old man in the room, loves Gene Wilder, loves that film, just didn't find it exciting, and I thought it's more of a IP for a studio. There's a pretty strong reference to other Roald Dahl source material near the end, where we kind of say, oh, are we going to jump into this? Are we going to see an expanded Roald Dahl universe? I don't know. Can't everything just be a one and done? Not everything needs to be a sequel, franchise. Thankfully, there's no mention of a multiverse. Yeah. That's all I can say. But Phil, you've been sitting patiently. I went off on a little mini rant there. What about you? What do you think of the film?
I was completely charmed by it. I loved it. I think it was completely mismarketed. I went in with really low expectations. Didn't know it was a musical. So I was delighted from the get-go when Timothée Chalamet was singing. Seen music by Neil Hannon credit, nice to see a local name. The build-up to eventually Pure Imagination at the end was great. All the side characters as well, Olivia Colman especially. I mean, she's always great, but I loved watching her. It's brilliant. Yeah, agree on the CG, lack of practical effects, but I liked it. It built a real convincing fantasy world. I thought, I hope they don't do a sequel. In my head, it was kind of detached from the Gene Wilder one. You know, it's much less cynical, much more whimsical. So I'm happy if they leave it at that. But I did love it as just a standalone.
I guess we don't know. I mean, it seems to have done okay at the box office. The reviews have been pretty solid. Not that the likes of Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or the Gospel of Truth by any means, but it seems to have positive feedback, positive reviews on social media. We never know with studios. If something is seen, and I hate that term, IP, if something is seen as viable, if they can milk something, and I know we're going to be talking about milk in the next film we'll be reviewing, but you both have probably been more positive than I have been on this front, but maybe that's just me, the old man in the room. But look, we are going to move on, and I know we're going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so you know the inner child me is very excited about that. But before we do, this weekend Rachel McCarthy's Bangor's Ghost is playing in Bangor, and I got a chance to catch up with the director to talk about the film.
I'm a bit kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, and fancied myself as a bit of an event organizer. And I was also on the committee of Open House Festival at the time and decided why not create a show based on Bangor's history and all these little stories that are lesser known, told through poetry and song, and get some authors involved, that kind of thing. But then I just sort of felt that there was a real strong visual, aspect to this. I know I didn't have access to loads of archive footage, so I thought, why not tell these stories set against the backdrop of today? Could we get a boat over to the Copeland Islands? Could we, use the back room in Fealties? Could we use Bangor Abbey? All those things that still have a remnant of its past. I didn't really have any huge plans for this at all. I thought if it could be screened a few more times, I'd be happy. I just really wanted to document the performers that are here as well now, because we're all going to be part of history one day.
Just before we let you go, just tell our viewers here at NvTv a little bit about the screenings this weekend and anything you have planned on next year in 2024.
Yeah, so we're doing 2 final screenings to sort of finish the year in the back bar of Fealties, another place that is featured in the film itself. It is really, really intimate. We've got Sunday sold out, but this Saturday there's still tickets available. So it'll be a nice, I'm calling it a cozy screening. And then I'm in talks with everybody involved in the show about having another In the Round live show in spring. And hopefully, yeah, that'll be in Bangor too.
Rachel, it has been an absolute pleasure. For anyone watching, I would definitely recommend seeking out Bangor Ghosts. So thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, Jim. Cheers.
So that's my interview with Rachel McCarthy about Bangor's Ghosts. As I said, the film is playing this weekend, and look out for more screenings in the future. But now let's move on to this week's DVD of the week.
We can't stop him.
We gotta try.
Can I kick it?
Go, 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 go!
My son, Michelangelo, you have heart. Donatello, you have wisdom. Raphael, you have bravery. And Leonardo, honor.
Enough talk! I dream about fighting every night.
You've got a rage problem, right?
It's not a problem!
So that's a look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. There we go. Bit of a tongue twister off a title film. I'm going to come to you first. So we're talking earlier with Wonka having rose-tinted glasses for things. I'm someone grew up, was surrounded pretty much in my house by toys for the Turtles. Read the comics. We've had various incarnations on the big and small screen for this franchise, this series. I mean, loved the live action versions in the 90s, Jim Henson, watched them recently on Paramount Plus. They have their charm, but there's definitely dated elements to them. We had the kind of Michael Bay versions, not a fan. Then we had, in the middle of that, we had like a live action TMNT, I think it was called, that was out in a while when the series was back on, I think, the Comic Network. I might be wrong on that front. So this is the latest incarnation on the big screen, very much visually taking its cues from the Spider-Verse movies, but maybe not as visually mad is the best way, an unprofessional way I'm going to put that, in terms of what we had with the kind of sheer exuberance that we had with the Spider-Verse movies. So, Mutant Mayhem, what do you think?
This was one of my favourite movies of the year. I loved it. I've a lot of nostalgia for the live-action 90s movies and for the late 80s cartoon. I loved it. It was beautiful to look at. It was just mesmerising, the animation style. And it had a lot of heart. The focus on them as teenagers, I mean, they're still ninjas, it's still action-packed, but having them dealing with social media, getting on like teenagers, wanting to go to school, like a normal high school with other kids. I love that. It gave it so much heart. And then, of course, what a cast. Jackie Chan as Splinter, brilliant, genius. Ice Cube as Superfly, fantastic, he stole the show. Loved it. Paul Rudd was one of the other mutants. Beautiful. The soundtrack, all classic hip hop, and then 9 Inch Nails doing the score. In a lot of ways, I feel like it was made for me. This movie, it just nailed something in my subconscious. I loved it.
I was nervous about this when I saw the trailer, because the first time I seen the trailer, I was like, I don't know, is it a shameless cash-in and kind of the success of the Spider-Verse movies? Is this kind of just trying to do it? And I know we've got the team here, in terms, we've got Seth Rogen kind of producing and writing. I think he's on writing duties in this. We have the director of this, did the fantastic Mitchells vs. Machines, which is on Netflix, I think only got released here. I think it got cinematic release in the States, which is well worth a viewing if you haven't seen it. I found myself being really pleasantly charmed. All the things you've said. And one of the key things you talked about them being actual teenagers. I might be wrong in this fact, but it seems like this is the first time where we've actually had teenagers playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because it's always been older actors lending their voices, and I think that just adds that little bit of authenticity. You mentioned kind of the cast. It is a pretty impressive cast. Yeah. And I think the great joke is we have introducing Paul Rudd in the credits. I mean, you know, I think this guy might go far. I don't know. Really impressive, really enjoyed it. I'm going to come back to you in a second, Phil, because we're going to, I guess, compare, you know, and I don't want to compare and contrast, but we've had this year. We've also had the sequel to Spider-Verse. But John, before we get to that, we've both sat and talked here gloriously about this movie. Where are you going to weigh in? Are you going to make it 3 for 3?
I sat and watched this film last night, just before it came on. I love this film. I thought it was I hadn't seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sort of anything in the franchise since I was a kid, since the 90s. And I loved, do you know what, more than anything else from this rendition of it, is that I remember from watching the young, the cartoons and from watching the movies, it always had a child dish played it. This one had a far more, I don't want to say adult theme, but it had far more themes in it that were centered around, adults. And the whole way through, I had no idea until the end credit that Splinter was Jackie Chan. But I did say, I was like, that's definitely Jackie Chan. Like I knew myself. But I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It is very much, you can tell, it's very heavily inspired by the Spider-Verse films. But the art style itself was very unique. I'd never seen anything like it before. It's just I wouldn't even know how to define it properly. It was, a blend between like watercolors and all the rest. And it was a coming-of-age story, you know what I mean? I thought it was really, really good in that regard. I didn't think it overshadowed anything from what came previously. I thought it stood on its own. And I would love to see a second one. I would love to see a sequel to it.
I find myself, actually, if I'm really honest, I preferred this to the two Spider-Verse movies. So that's my hot take as we come to the end of 2023. As someone who loved the first film, loved, not maybe to the same level, the second Spider-Verse movie, because it reminded me of sitting at home, flicking through pages, reading the comics. I think this film does just as good a job, if not slightly better, of reminding this. I sound like I'm obsessed about my age this week. It was my birthday recently, but this 41-year-old man reminded me of that nostalgia of in my bedroom, flicking through my comics, reading Turtles, Judge Dredd, Spider-Man. I know I've went off on a little ramble. I'm going to ask you both, but Phil, for you, I know we don't like comparing too much. I have. That's my hot take, so I'm going to put the pressure on you.
Yeah, I preferred Turtles as well to I mean, that's not a slight against the Spider-Verse movies. I loved both of them. They were great fun, again, beautiful to look at. But I think Turtles tells it's a tighter story. It doesn't feel like it was necessarily planned to be part of something much larger.
Well, you were saying before we started to record, the last Spider-Verse movie, you got very angry.
When that movie ended, and I realised we weren't getting a complete story, but a setup for another movie, I was furious for about 15 minutes until I let that wash over me and kind of thought about what I enjoyed, which was the rest of the movie. I definitely preferred Turtles because of that, I think.
We like to see things have a start, a middle and an end. John, what about you? Maybe you weren't as angry as Phil when you went to see Spider-Verse.
I think sometimes I'm a franchise player. I don't like seeing things end, that's my problem. I think comparing the two, just firstly, I think they're on fairly equal par. I think you're right, one of them is a far more beginning, middle and end kind of story. I have a theory about the Miles Morales aspects of that, where I think they're doing a really good job at introducing him now in the animated world and the gaming world too, so that they can then lead to a very big reveal on the big screen. That's my theory. I think that's sort of what the Sony super geniuses are planning or whatever. But if I had to pick the two, it would obviously be Spider-Man. I'm a huge Spider-Man narc, but I still think that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had a really special place for where it was, and like I said, I'm one of the people who wants to see more of it, so.
Yeah, so again, I think of the two films we've talked about so far, we've been pretty positive. I think this is so far the most positive we've been. Yeah, both of you were much more positive about Wonka than I was. With that, let's move on and continue our festive countdown. We don't have long to go as we go for something completely different with The Night Before.
I have a present for you. We're going to the best Christmas party in New York City. So that gives us several hours to hit as many traditions as possible. To the end of an era.
I think the cocaine and the mushrooms are reacting poorly.
You look insane. Only your right eye is working.
Do I look weird now?
Yes, you look weird. Still weird. Weirder.
So we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Anthony Mackie, Seth Rogen, in this kind of stoner comedy of sorts, but it's set at Christmas, but it's dirty, but it's got a heart. But I remember seeing the poster for this at the Strand Arts Cinema many years ago and thinking to myself, that looks terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. As we sit and record tonight, I was looking back on my Facebook memories. What can I say? I'm a slave to social media. 6 years ago was the first time I watched this film at home, and my exact words were, I have found a new festive favourite. Loved it. Completely took me by surprise. I don't know why, because it's from the team that brought us 50/50, which also featured Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen, which was kind of a cancer comedy that, again, had its kind of crude moments, but had a heart of gold. So I love this, and it's very, of the more recent attempts at trying to do Christmas movies, probably my favourite in terms of that. So it's going to be interesting to see what you both think. Phil, you hadn't seen this before we asked you to watch it, so I'm going to come to you first. So as someone who's just come in, watched this specifically for the show, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. It's very much not my kind of comedy. It's not something I would have watched unprompted, but it did win me over in the end. It had enough sort of big belly laughs in it. The three leads, I really bought their chemistry. I really bought them as being three, lifelong friends who were in this together. Michael Shannon, his cameo was terrific, just bringing that trademark Michael Shannon intensity to a very funny role. I'm a real sucker for Christmas movies generally, so all the wee nods, the Night Before Christmas opening, Michael Shannon, the eventual reveal of what's going on there, the Christmas Carol sort of references where the drugs are giving them the experiences of the past, the present, the future, all that kind of stuff charmed me quite a lot. And then the eventual resolution, where all their emotional arcs kind of come together finally at the end. I loved it, and Seth Rogen's a joy to watch. He's a very physical performer. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I love it. I'm biased, as I say. I really enjoyed the film. Everything that you've mentioned, all the other nods, there's an ensemble, not just in terms of the cast, but of Christmas movies. There's references to Die Hard, there's references to Home Alone, there's also references to one of my favourite books, and one of the two versions that made it to the big screen, The Great Gatsby. There's a reference in there. So I feel that beyond that initial look at that terrible poster of just the Christmas sweaters, having seen the trailer, I don't necessarily think it really sells the film. There is a few elements, I was just going to say before we started to record, there's one cameo, I think, that now post Me Too and kind of revelations about the actor, kind of, and accusations, I should say, against the actor, I think haven't aged well. Watching it for like the umpteenth time for the show, part of me always has that nervousness of going, is this good or is this bad? But then we get to, there's sequences like in the church, which I'll not spoil, just a proper belly laugh, and it's like, yeah, I forgot. I absolutely love this film, and we also have a great cameo by Miley Cyrus as well. But she's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. John, you had seen this before.
I'd seen this previously.
So are we going to make this 3 for 3 again? Or are we going to be positive about The Night Before?
I would say I'm the opposite. I've been with my partner for 9 years, and from that, she is obsessed with Christmas movies. So they are done to death over Christmas. So I love this film just for the fact that it was a Christmas story, but it was done in very much the non-sort of children themed, Christmas movie. I thought, like you said, the chemistry between the characters was great. I love Seth Rogen for the fact that a lot of people call him a one-note wonder. I disagree. I think he's really good at telling the same joke over and over again, but with a different story or different arc. And he's very good at it comes close to for the comedy that I make here, but a lot of it's sort of centered around his community and his his Jewish community and all the rest. But he does it in a way where everybody would get it. It's not an inside joke. And there is it is a brilliant sort of. I think it is a great start. I think it maybe drops off slightly in the middle, but it does have a brilliant cadence at the end. So I definitely like that. That was great. It's great for people who don't like that many sort of cheesy Christmas movie. I think it's got a nice twist to it.
Considering the fact that last week we talked about The Holiday, which I did not like, great to see that on our last show before the Christmas special, when, let me add, next week we're doing a Hallmark Christmas special where we're going to be looking at Hallmark Christmas movies. I think it's nice that we have a little positive Christmas movie that I think tonight we've all agreed we all like, something a little bit different. If you're looking just beyond the regulars that you would normally watch, always find on at Christmas time, this is something a little bit different. But look, we're pretty much out of time now this evening, so all that's left for me to do now is thank my two guests here in the studio. So thank you very much, John.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much, Phil.
Thank you.
And thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with the aforementioned Christmas special. But for now, until then, goodbye.